Uh, I understand our next inductee is Bobby Cruz, and I think that's great. I just want to say something very briefly about Bobby. We've had talks throughout the years, and I rarely have the opportunity to say something about a fellow ring announcer. But Bobby, you deserve this honor very much. This is something that I'm delighted that you're being recognized for what you've done to the ring announcing business. You are a credit to the industry, and I congratulate you.
And here to induct Bobby Cruz is the king of old school, Steve Corino.
You're going to have to bear with me a little bit. I was originally told this was the roast of Bobby Cruz, so I came a little unprepared. But once you have the microphone, it's your show, right? So let's start it. Bobby Cruz is so hairy, he was born in a zoo. Bobby Cruz is so hairy, he has to shave his face once a day and his back twice. He is a disgusting human being. Bobby Cruz is so obsessed with woman wrestler ODB, he pitched ROH officials to change his name to OHB, Old Hairy Bastard. Bobby Cruz is the most miserable human being on the planet. He makes Jim Ross look nice. His creepy comments to female coworkers make me cringe like when Jim Cornette watches a Young Bucks match. Known to his inner circle as Beanbag, he's known to the masses as that asshole that introduces people. Actually, I was the 6th person that Bobby asked to induct him. 6. 5 other people had something better to do tonight. Why did I say yes? I figured this was my best chance to ever appear at any Hall of Fame. I met Bobby Cruz in 2001, shortly after ECW closed, and as I was trolling away on the independent circuit, whoring myself out for anybody that had $500, he brought me up to New England for a promoter that to this day I still believe was his uncle. We hit it off immediately. In 2002, I was booking my own little company in Pennsylvania, and I needed a good ring announcer. My short list consisted of one person, Bobby Cruz. See, I believe a ring announcer is not some random dude that introduces wrestlers. He's an MC, he's a host, and he's a voice that people should remember. That's Bobby Cruz. In 2003, I brought Bobby to Ring of Honor to be my personal ring announcer. Guillotine LeGrand and I would spend hours coming up with these crazy lists just to get heat from the fans. But it was Bobby Cruz that always put him over the top. Like most wrestling fans growing up, I loved Howard Finkel. No one announced a title change like the Fink. I was even fortunate enough to hear Mr. Finkel say, "Here's your winner, Steve Corino," at a live event at my only time at Madison Square Garden in 1997. Howard Finkel is the man. But as much as Howard Finkel is the man, nothing gets me more pumped up than when Bobby Cruz announces me. Now, Kerry Silken was the first person that Bobby asked to introduce him, and he couldn't be here tonight. And he knew I was having a little bit of writer's block, so he wrote something from both of us. We're here tonight to acknowledge the best damn ring announcer on the planet. When Bobby Cruise came to Ring of Honor, he was, as most of you know, in 2003, my manservant. We're talking me, not Kerry. Introducing me at every match, demanding the microphone from the former ROH ring announcer who used to look at him as a threat from day one. Invariably, Cruz would go on and on and on about all my accomplishments, compressing, is Gary's words, powers in the ring, oftentimes to the hoot and hollers of the intelligent Ring of Honor fan who couldn't stand his uppity glow and his total disregard for anything else other than myself. Such a know-it-all. And when my match was over and my hand was raised, I never won. His smirk got smirkier. His stare was like ice. And his obvious venom at the little people, not you short sleeve, was a palpable reminder that this man didn't give a shit about anybody. Except me. Bobby Cruise was smart, and he still is. And he dredged every possible ounce of arrogance he could muster to make his points over and over again. But never dull, just constant, repetitive. Enough already with this guy, ROH fans would say. They must have thought this guy was an asshole. They were right. But I know differently. So I brought him to Japan, which I do believe is the first known instance of a major star like myself who brought along his own personal ring announcer. A country with different customs. God only knows what the typical Japanese wrestling fan thought of him. In a country where professional wrestling news gets as much page one coverage as the Tokyo Giants baseball team, Bobby Cruise shattered their conception of what a ring announcer should be. And he's still shattering those same things today. Kerry Silkin's no fool, and neither are the powers that were at ROH back then. Cruz easily slid into the role of 2004 ROH ring announcer with professionalism, a wicked sense of self-assurance, and that voice. A voice that can break a wooden board. 11 years later, he's still making the rafters reverberate with that voice. It doesn't matter which glitches are put in his path. Wrong wrestler music, wrong wrestler to the ring, it doesn't matter. Bobby Cruise is unfazed. In the last 11 years, he's traveled to England, Japan, and all over this great country of ours, from Las Vegas to San Francisco, from Boston to New York, Philadelphia, Dayton, New York City, and right here in Providence, Rhode Island, and all points in between. Out of the ring, he's a Starling family man, there at every sporting event of his talented daughter's games. Maybe not so good of a husband, but all the ladies love Bobby Cruise. In the words of the great Carly Simon, nobody does it better. And in the words of the great Kerry Silkin, Bobby Cruise, I hail you. So please join me in welcoming Bobby Cruise into the 2015 New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame.
A little nervous. I suck at this. You know, I'm very comfortable announcing people in the ring, but as my daughters would tell you, I'm the president of their softball league, and every opening day I have to make announcements, and I suck at it. So, first of all, Steve, thank you. Not the sixth choice. I wanted Carrie and Steve to be here. Carrie recently underwent some surgery, so he couldn't be here, but I appreciate him sending along some thoughts. I've said for the past dozen years at least, the two people that helped my career the most were Steve Carino and Carrie Silken. That's why I'd asked them. Steve got me out of New England for the first time, got me to Japan for the first time, and Carrie made the decision in 2004. I'll never forget, he called me, and this was coming up on a big weekend for Ring of Honor. It was Weekend of Thunder with the legendary Jushin Thunder Liger. And he called me the week before, and he said, we were talking, and we want to know if you'll be the full-time ring announcer for Ring of Honor. No matter where we run, we want you to be our ring announcer. So if the position becomes available, would you take it? And I didn't want to step on anybody's toes that they were using previously. So I said, if the position becomes available, then I'll take it. He said, okay, give me an hour. And within a half hour, he called me, he said, okay, it's available. So a lot of thanks to Steve and to Carrie. I won't take up too much time, mainly because Steve and I have to get to Cranston, Rhode Island to destroy the XWA. But Howard Finkel, we've mentioned him a few times tonight. Kevin Kelly, who a lot of people are familiar with, of course, worked for WWE for years and has now been our lead play-by-play guy for Ring of Honor for several years. I was a guest on his podcast last year, and he reminded me of something he told me before that I'd forgotten, where he said, Bobby, I always tell people, you're the second best ring announcer that I've ever seen. And, of course, Howard Finkel is the first. And it's one of the few times as a human being that you might be proud to be number two. Because you can be number two to the god of ring announcing. I'll take it. So thank you. A lot of people ask me, how'd you become a ring announcer? And I'd always had an interest in watching Howard over the years and the production and the music part of it and announcing. And I always say, well, I was never trained. I didn't go to school. I remember once when I was interested in getting into the wrestling business as a ring announcer, never a wrestler. I went to Killer Kowalski School, the late, great Killer Kowalski. And I showed up, and he knew I just wanted to be a ring announcer. And he told me to get in the ring. And I said, why? He says, you got to learn how to bump. I said, oh, no. He said, yes, $1,000, backdrop. I said, no. Let's just go as far as a ring announcer. And I think he thought I had aspirations to be a wrestler. And then he quickly realized that wasn't going to happen. I never expected to still be here 21 years later after I started ring announcing. Starting in New England, 1994. Joe Eugenio's name was brought up earlier. I need to thank him. He was the guy that made the call and actually had some faith in me in the mid-'90s to run his company as the booker. And that's when I met Steve in the late 90s. And, getting out of New England was such a key for me. Working for Steve's PWF, getting seen by 01. And I'll never forget Thanksgiving 2001, I think it was, the old AOL-IM. Remember that one? Where it was Thanksgiving, and Steve sent me a message. Said, hey, 01's going to run a couple of USA Themes events in Tokyo, and they want you to ring announce. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, we've all done things we have to do to get started. I'm looking up flights now. I got to fly myself over, and what? Message me back, nope, they're taking care of everything. They'll pay you for the shows. They're flying you over. They're taking you to the hotel. And something I never thought of. To be a ring announcer being brought to Japan was such a major thing for me and such a confidence builder for me. The first confidence builder was Steve bringing me out of New England and then the Japan stuff. And I owe my 11-year career getting spotted by Ring of Honor to Steve also. It happened because of those quote-unquote Carino intros, and the same kind of thing happened, and it just kind of snowballed, and they decided to go with me. So I've been very, very lucky, and for a ring announcer, I could probably be done tomorrow, and I would have accomplished a lot more than I ever would have thought of. And I see so many faces here tonight, Johnny Angel and Wagner and Shortsleeve, and I don't want to leave out names, so I'm not going to mention any more names, but just guys I've seen over the years, and it's such a thrill. It used to be, guys can probably remember that New England was frowned upon as far as wrestling. There was no quality wrestlers here or anything, and that certainly has changed over the past decade at least. And I think everybody that's involved with New England professional wrestling should be proud to be from New England. You can actually stick your head up now and say, yeah, I'm from somewhere in New England. Just with us in Ring of Honor, every top prospect tournament winner we've had has been from New England, and I think that's awesome. So it's a very special thing. I just want to thank, thank Stephen Huff, especially after the beginning of that speech. The bookers, especially in Ring of Honor, that I have worked alongside with. Gabe Sapolsky, who is still one of the best minds I've ever seen in professional wrestling. He came up with some stuff that I can not even dream about booking. Adam Pierce, who's become one of my better friends in professional wrestling over the year, now working along with Howard's company down at NXT, and I'm sure he'll do great things down there. Jim Cornette. I remember when Jim Cornette was brought back on board, I was doing some radio interviews, and people had asked me, what do you think about Cornette coming on board? And I said, how could it be a bad thing to have a guy who's been in the business for about 35 years, who's done every possible job in front of the camera and behind the camera with the knowledge he brings? And of course, Henry Broxton, who's been our booker now for the past several years. I'm very proud to be the ring announcer for Ring of Honor, especially for the past 11 years, especially what's going on now. If anyone has any question who the number two company is in this country, I don't think there should be any question. I think Ring of Honor, what we bring and what we bring to the fans as far as quality and heart and effort, is the number two company in this country. And that's something I'm very, very proud of until they fire me, whenever that is. Then I'll talk a different tune. And there's one other thing I just want to touch on. For years and years, the other guy to my right, Rich Palladino, there's been this back and forth thing with fans. Who's the best ring announcer in New England? Is it Bobby Cruz? Is it Rich Palladino? Well, I will tell you this. Rich Palladino has a passion for professional wrestling that I wish I had. Rich Palladino has a passion for what he does that I've never really seen before. Was it 2010 that I called you? I had a vacation pre-planned for a big show in New York City for Ring of Honor. And I could not change this vacation. And this was a night that Tyler Black, of course, now better known as Seth Rollins, was winning the Ring of Honor World title. And I was panicky because I never missed Ring of Honor events, whether it was Tokyo, Osaka, London, or here. And I had to miss it. So Adam Pierce said to me, well, you get to pick who's going to replace you in the Manhattan Center that night. And I went right to Rich Palladino. Rich Palladino is professional, classy, and I will say this. I see a lot of people posting all the time that Rich Palladino is the voice of New England. And to start trouble sometimes, I kind of give them a little bit of a hard time when people say that. How dare they? I've been around just as long or whatever. But I can tell you, without any doubt now, and I'll never repeat it after this, but Rich Palladino is the true ring announcing voice of New England. And I'm going to beat the shit out of you later at the XWA. So that's it. I don't want to take up any more time. I know Wagner, you know what, and I don't mean any disrespect. Steve and I don't mean any disrespect. We do have to get out of here and get to Cranston. I'm so upset that I will not be able to hear Wagner's laugh on the microphone. It's one of the greatest things in my 21 years in pro wrestling is Slick Wagner Brown's laugh. It's amazing. So I'll be getting the video, believe me. But everyone, thank you. This is a thrill and it's an honor. Thank you to Joe. For this honor. I just want to say one thing also to my two daughters standing over there. I don't feel any more guilty ever than when I'm on the road to Ring of Honor and say Sarah has a hockey game or Kenna has a dance recital. But it seems to work because when I miss hockey games, Sarah scores a goal every time. So I think I'm going to try and get all the Ring of Honor house shows. But I want to thank them for putting up with it because I don't know how much time I have left ring announcing. But I want to just thank them for their support. And one last thing. When Justin Roberts was no longer working with WWE, I went on Twitter, and I said, I now declare myself the best male ring announcer on national television. And somebody tweeted back, wow, that's really arrogant of you. Why would? And I said, I'm the only male ring announcer of professional wrestling on national television. that shouldn't be the case. He can't say this, but I can say this. As long as he can hold the microphone or he can walk, okay? He can even do it from a table. This man should be announcing on national television every single week. And I knew where this whole thing was headed several years ago after I did some work for WWE. And I got a call after, checking in. And I got a call from the office saying, oh, everything was good, whatever, but the next ring announcer we hire is going to be a hot chick. And I said, you know what? That's kind of the reverse of what other people would complain about in the past. And now you look at NFL sidelines or baseball sideline reporters or whatever, and that's what people want to see. I guess that's what we want to see, right, guys? We don't want to see guys, so forth. But me and Gene, thankfully you hit a home run. Yeah. But once again, thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. And I'll leave you one very last thing. And I know this was in an article that was written about me recently. I gave a quote. When I did the WWE work, I was leaving the building, as is customary, right, as thanking people as you leave at shows. And I hadn't met Vince McMahon yet. I had done 2 days of some TV work. So I waited. I wanted to make sure I saw him and just thanked him for the opportunity. And he shook my hand, and Howard knows this. He shook my hand and he said, Bobby, you did a great job. But next time, try not to be so Howard Finkel-ish. And the criticism was the greatest compliment. So, thank you.